Welcome to the Depot Sports Chat. I'm Todd Murray, along with WVU football writer Ed Owens, and a 54-0 victory for the Mountaineers tonight against Towson. And most talk of this game is going to start with Clint Trickett, the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely, and another solid, I wouldn't call it outstanding based on the competition, but another very solid performance from Clint Trickett. This is 2 weeks in a row. He was 35 of 40 passing tonight, worked the ball around, really got in rhythm early, and as we talked about in the pregame show, the offense was there. They kept the ball moving, they had the tempo, they had the pace, they really showed that they're able to open it up and get a lot of things done. I think that's got to worry some opponents down the stretch, that it seems like WVU's offense has found its footing.
Does it seem like he's just playing with a confidence that maybe was lacking a lot of last season?
A confidence that he was lacking and a shoulder he was lacking last season. I think you're looking at a healthy Clint Trickett, and you're seeing a year two progression, which is what they told us throughout the offseason. It's also what they said about Geno Smith, and they were right with that. His second year was significantly better in terms of a grasp, a handle on this offense, and you saw what he was able to do. I think Clint is feeling much more comfortable with this offense and what they're able to do this year.
Right, and Clint was so good tonight that we saw young William Crest, the true freshman, that there's been a lot of talk about him, talk about maybe a red shirt. Obviously that's not to be now. They brought him in the third quarter. Your thoughts on him getting in tonight?
They wanted to do it. It's something that Dana said they identified early in the week, and the Crest era has officially begun, at least partly. I think Trickett's going to do everything he can to keep Crest off the field for as much as he can, but Crest showed some flashes today. They showed why, or he showed why, WVU's coaches have confidence in him. He was able to get in there. He was able to run the read option, which is something Shannon Dawson has sworn up and down this team wasn't going to be doing this year, but Crest got in there and found the end zone. They did a really good job with him in there. They're not going to implement a full package, and Shannon said as much in the post-game interviews. They're not going to put too much on him early, but when you have a kid with that kind of skill set, you're going to want to be able to use him, and I don't think this is the last we see of Crest, and I don't think it's only going to be relegated to mop-up duty either. I think if there's times where it calls for it, they've shown tonight that they're comfortable putting him in the game and letting him show what he can do.
And as we saw last week against Alabama, a lot of receivers are getting involved in this offense. I think at least 10 caught balls here tonight. Kevin White, I think, called in 10 passes for 101 yards. No touchdowns, which sort of irritated Dana Holgerson afterward. But what does this mean for the offense to be able to get so many people involved?
They can get a lot of guys involved, and they've shown it last week. They showed it even more this week. Kevin White, for the second straight week, like you said, he is emerging as a leader on this offense. Throughout the preseason, White's talk was consistency. He'd have a great game last year, and then he'd disappear for 1 or 2 games. And all throughout the offseason, he said, I want to be consistent. 2 games in a row, he's been very consistent at a high level for WVU. I know a lot of guys took personal pride in seeing Jordan Thompson, who has kind of gotten saddled as a spring game performer, find the end zone for the first time, and there's a lot of satisfaction in that for him, even if he's not letting on for it. WVU has options. Alford, Shorts got back into the mix again this week, so they've got guys who can do it. They're showing the weapons. This is the offense that they promised we'd see, and again, take it with a grain of salt. It is Towson, but this is the offense they promised, and this is the offense we're getting.
Right. Nobody would try to claim that this Towson team is a great offensive team. They lost their star running back to the NFL. Not a great offensive team, but still, WVU came in here tonight and held them, I believe, to 42 yards rushing. You really saw some solid performances on that side of the ball. Huh?
Yeah, and again, as we said in the pregame show, not to pat ourselves on the back here, but they got pressure, and it was one of the things we wanted to see. They were able to get pressure against Alabama, but they couldn't finish. Tonight they got pressure and they finished. They were getting after Frazier from Towson. They were really making him scramble around, took him down a few times, and on top of that, this is a defense that really kind of showed that they can get off the field on third down. It was the other glaring weakness against Alabama. They really struggled to get off the field on third downs tonight. They were coming up big in big situations. The critical situations that Tony Gibson has talked about, they performed. And like you said, again, it's Towson. But the confidence that they get out of this, they're hoping can really translate and move forward into next week's game against Maryland.
Right, an interesting contest to be sure. WVU was embarrassed last year in that game in Baltimore, and Maryland will come in 2-0 after a win against South Florida this week. Your thoughts on that matchup?
There were more than a few guys up in the media room talking in in post-game interviews about last year's game against Maryland and wanting a little comeback, or a little payback, excuse me. It was an embarrassment, and they said as much. It was an embarrassing game, it was an embarrassing loss, and it really kind of came to define last year's season. I think this Maryland game, as it always tends to do, could also define this year's season. If they can come out and put together another strong performance, show that they've built off Alabama, built off Towson, and put up a strong showing against Maryland, I think you're heading into the conference season in really good shape. If you come out and lay an egg against Maryland like they did last year, I think all the confidence they're feeling right now could go right down and sink this team. So we'll just have to see how they come out next week against the Terps.
Will be interesting for sure. Ed, thanks for your time, and please continue to follow our WVU football coverage on the D Post.